President Sandy Vidal, who will close us out this afternoon. I'll give a morning afternoon for all of us. And that is, take out your cell phone and put it in the vibrate, do not disturb, won't ring position, so we can all pay close attention today. So to begin our session, we always begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to do that. So if you would please stand. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We also always begin by asking our elected officials to please rise and introduce themselves. So if you are an elected official, and let's just hold for our two mayors, we're going to introduce them in a bit, but if anyone else in the House, as elected official, if you would please stand.
I'm Todd Weaver, Winter Park City Commission.
Thank you, Todd. Anyone else? Any other elected officials? No. Okay, so look around the room. This is a very important session, as you can see by the large audience that we have gathered here today. Just look around the room. We are very, very pleased to be in a situation where we can bring together our two mayors, Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings and Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer. So thank you, mayors, for being here, both of you together. This is historic. We have a history that's very sometimes difficult in prior administrations to get both of our mayors at the same time. So we are very grateful that they are here and talking about the same issue at the same time as us, something extremely important to us, transportation. And I also want to thank Theo Webster. Theo, would you please raise your hand? Who is the chair of our transportation committee. Who has worked together with our two co-chairs for Hot Topics, Sue Gilman and Barbara Landing, on this important issue. Before we start and I say any more about transportation, I want to make one very short announcement, because sometimes people have to leave a little bit early, and this is going to be an important session. I know we possibly will go over. But we're going to be talking later about the possibility that we might be making a site change for Hot Topics. So I want you to pay attention to what might be coming in January. We will not have a Hot Topics event in December. We usually take 2 months off, December and July. But come January, we will be meeting again, but we're not exactly 100% sure where. So we have some exciting news that we're working on, and we will very likely be testing a new site in January. So pay attention. We'll talk more about reasons for that and so forth. But we have certainly enjoyed being with the Cirrhosis Club, and as you can see, we're getting very close to growing out of it. So we're looking at other opportunities. Back last calendar year, and also our last fiscal year, we did a transportation report, the 2018 transportation report by the League of Women Voters, Orange County. We retained the services of some consultants, researchers who gathered a lot of data for us, and we analyzed that data, and we gave Metro Orlando a grade of D for transportation. We did that because as we examined every major transportation methodology and ways that we move people around in Central Florida and get them to work and get them to school and get them back home, we found some facts that we just could not ignore. I just want to tell you about 2 of them. The first one was that we were told by the Teltac Navman group of their 2016 assessment that I-4 is the #1 most dangerous highway in the United States of America. We couldn't ignore that. And at that time also in 2018, when that report came out in last October, so a year ago now, we were the 3rd deadliest city for pedestrians in the nation, the 3rd deadliest city. Well, unfortunately in 2019, we're back to #1. We're the #1 deadliest city for pedestrians and cyclists in our community. In fact, the 2019 report says that 7 out of the 10 deadliest cities are all in Florida. We're #1 in that group. And No, by the way, of course, Florida is the deadliest state for pedestrians in the country. So this is a very important topic. We do have a transportation committee, and I would imagine after this session, you guys are going to be flocking to Theo to find out how you could join to help us in this effort. But at the end of that report, we had a whole list of recommendations. Number one on that list, was that we needed a dedicated funding source for transportation. And oh, by the way, we needed to ask the citizens what they think about it. And so in January, we had a transportation session. Mayor Dyer was here on the stage with a panel. Mayor Demings had just been elected. He had just taken office, so he wasn't able to join us yet for that. But here he is today, along with Mayor Dyer, to talk about this, and we can learn what's happening now since then. How is our transportation report? How is our work in the community? How is the League of Women Voters and the citizens of Greater Orlando? What's going on that we need to hear about? So if you live anywhere in Central Florida, you know we have transportation challenges that we have to overcome for every one of our transportation systems. So how are the city of Orlando and how is Orange County working together to make our commute easier and safer? We'll hear more from our respective mayors about this moving subject, pun intended. And to moderate our session today, we've asked Raquel Asa, who is the anchor and transportation reporter for WFTV Eyewitness News in Orlando. We all know it as Channel 9. Raquel has been a journalist for nearly 15 years in both New York and Florida. During her time in Orlando, she has covered all things transportation. She was recognized in May by the Federal Highway Administration for her efforts to raise awareness for both drivers and construction workers in work zone areas. Raquel is active in the community and participates in events every year to help organizations raise money for their cause and their mission. She has helped Second Harvest Food Bank. She's helped Embrace Families, the local chapters of Muscular Dystrophy and American Diabetes Association, to raise money locally. And then she's going to in turn introduce our two mayors who are going to be our entire panel for today. So please join me in welcoming Raquel Asa to the Good morning.
Good morning.
Or should I say this afternoon? It's already noon. I've been up since 3 in the morning, so everything is morning for me. At this point, I'm going to adjust it a little bit because I'm a little bit of a loud talker. Thank you. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for inviting me to this event, which you can tell just by the size of this room and the number of people who are here. You can see just how important this topic is to Central Florida as a whole. So they asked me to prepare some talking points to kind of give a lay of the land. Gloria did a great job kind of laying the land here. But I want to go a little bit deeper. I want to show just how important this issue is, not just for the city of Orlando or for Orange County, but for Central Florida as well. So you don't have to look far to see how fast the city of Orlando or Orange County is growing. You see the new rooftops and the developments of those once empty lots that we pass every day. They are now filled with buildings and homes. The trip across town before never used to take a second thought, right? But now with congestion and traffic, it has caused us to reconsider whether that trip was really necessary and whether if we took that trip, we would make it on time for the school pickup run. And it's no secret why. A recent report by the Orlando Economic Partnership cited that 1,500 people a week are moving to Central Florida, pushing our population to over 5.2 million residents. That pales in comparison to the 75 million people who visit us just last year. More visitors than any other region in the entire country. Our boom and our strong tourist economy, of course, comes with a huge challenge. Orlando ranks as the 26th worst city for traffic out of 297 cities in the country. Traffic solutions, as you know, they are in the works. You see them when you come across the box barricades, right? Orlando can tout, though, that we have more than $10 billion currently invested in transportation infrastructure, which far outpaces any other metropolitan area. But many of those projects, they're only currently meeting the needs that we have now. And they're not necessarily taking into account the needs of the future. Take I-4, for example. Gloria just mentioned that. Even with more than $2 billion being invested to revamp 21 miles of our interstate, the backbone of our area, from Seminole County down to Universal Studios, consider this just for one moment. By 2030, I know that seems like a far out time frame from now, but that's just roughly 10 years from now. By then, there will be an increase of up to 55% of the vehicles on I-4. I know, you hear the groans, right? So more cars obviously raises the potential for more car crashes. We see that, and I see that by the day, every single morning. In a society so focused on everything else instead of the task at hand, most drivers forget the only job they have when they get behind that wheel is to drive. Just this year, more than 1,600 people, I'm going to say that again, 1,600 people died on our roads in the state of Florida. 27% of those were pedestrian and bicycle deaths. In a society so obsessed with our cars, municipalities are now tasked with not just building our roads for cars, but for people and bikes, all while making way for alternative modes of transportation, just like rail. It's definitely a tough position for cities and counties to be in these days, and that's why we brought both mayors here to the table. The big question is, how can we build and maintain the roads of today and innovate for the transportation of tomorrow? With that being said, I would like to introduce the two people who are tasked with a big undertaking, Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer and Mayor Jerry Demings. So I'd like to start out by introducing Mayor Buddy Dyer, and I want to give you a little bit about his history here because he has pledged to fix some of these transportation problems. Mayor Dyer has been the mayor of Orlando since 2003. Among many of his accomplishments, too long to list, keeping the theme of transportation, Mayor Dyer has a strong commitment to keeping Orlando moving and green. He is an advocate for the expansion of public transit and creating an environmentally sustainable city. Successes under Mayor Dyer's leadership include SunRail, the introduction of bike share, and 140% increase in bike lane mileage since 2003. Mayor Dyer not only helped shape the transportation decisions of the city, but as a board member of the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority, Lynx, and the Central Florida Expressway Authority, and of course SunRail, he is helping shape the transportation decisions of our region. Ladies and gentlemen, Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer. Next on our panel, a man who is no stranger to driving these streets as a former sheriff of Orange County. Mayor Demings was sworn in on December 4th, 2018 as the 5th elected mayor of Orange County and is the very first African American to serve in this very prominent role. He talks about the challenges that Orange County faces, and he is the mayor of a county that draws more visitors than any other region in this nation. As mentioned, 75 million last year visited us, and we have the second largest convention center and the second largest university in the country. It adds the unique set of challenges of the county's transportation system than any other region. He says that his goal is to make Orange County the, quote, experimental prototype community of tomorrow. By creating a community culture of innovation, collaboration, and inclusiveness. Like Mayor Dyer, he currently serves on the board of the Greater Orlando Aviation Authority, Central Florida Expressway Authority, Metro Plan Orlando, and Lynx, and also on the Central Florida Expressway Authority, as I mentioned, to name a few. All right, you guys ready to get started? Okay, so I want to lay a few ground rules that they have told me, because I know you have to make your way to one of those board meetings today at 1 o'clock. Mayor Dyer wearing his GOA tie already, so we're going to make sure that each of you have the chance to respond. You have 3 to 5 minutes for each question posed, and then 1 minute follow-up. And where's my timekeeper out there? She's out there. She's going to give you a nice little cue card so you know where we are. Okay. So let's get started with you, Mayor Demings. One of the biggest challenges to fixing transportation issues here in Central Florida, as Gloria mentioned, is funding. You've held a number of transportation meetings so far all over the county after you announced the possibility of 1 cent sales tax. One of the big questions that we have is how are you going to prioritize that funding, and what have you found in holding those series of community meetings?
Okay, thank you very much. In terms of the prioritization of how we will spend the dollars, what we have endeavored to do is really take it to the people. We are having listening sessions throughout the county. We have one, in fact, coming up this coming Monday. That will be at the Camping World Stadium, the Varsity Club with the African American Chamber. Then we have a town hall meeting Tuesday evening out at the Barnett Park in West Orlando. So with this series of meetings, we will have hundreds of these meetings where we will engage with our community, and we want to listen to you. In terms of the priorities will be what we gather from the surveys, and there's a survey here today that we're asking you to fill out if you haven't had the opportunity to do so. So we will then take that and develop a spending plan, working in partnership with our municipalities, inclusive of the city of Orlando, and come up with a plan so that when the electorate will be asked to go to the ballot in November of next year, roughly 1 year from now, they will know precisely what it is they're voting for and how we will spend those dollars.
Are you done? So the question is in regards to the sales tax funding. You've actually already expressed your full support here from Mayor Demings.
Yeah, I'll be clear again, as clear as I can possibly be, that I'm 100% supportive of the sales tax initiative. Since I've been in office, and probably since Linda was mayor of Orange County, we've been talking about having a dedicated funding source for Lynx, and we know that we need one. We probably have, I'd say, half the buses and service that we really need for an area our size. We know that we need to expand SunRail, so those are things I think that Jerry's talked about funding right off the top. And then each of the cities and the county itself has so many transportation needs. You mentioned that we've invested $10 billion over the course of years. We have great momentum in our community, and one of the ways we can stop that momentum is if we don't continue to invest in transportation infrastructure. And with 1,500 people moving to Central Florida every single week, you know we have needs. And if you drive on any of our city streets, you know that we need to repair brick streets with great frequency. We have switched to something called complete streets, where as we resurface, renovate, or build new streets, we take into account the pedestrian experience and the biking experience. We want to expand our bike trails. We want to make sure that we get to what we call Vision Zero in terms of not having any traffic fatalities in Orlando. So there are many great needs, and I'm 100% supportive.
Mayor Dyer here expressing his full support for when that proposal does go to voters. How do you plan to get the rest of the support for all the other cities and the other mayors within Orange County?
We have had a series of meetings now where I have met with the other mayors within Orange County to discuss the merits of this plan. The county administrator, Byron Brooks, has been meeting with the different either city managers or chief administrative officers within the county as well, having meetings. And so we are all trying to make certain that we're being comprehensive. I think that as it relates to this initiative, as a region, Orange County is really the hub of the region. But this is something that can be truly transformational for our entire community. I think in order to realize the type of successes that we all kind of envision when we are addressing the pedestrian safety issues, the traffic congestion issues, and the like, it will not just take tens of millions of dollars, it will take billions of dollars to expand SunRail so that we will have additional spurs that come off of the main line, if you will, that go throughout the county into other geographical areas. That's something that can be very, very costly as well. To double the size of the Lynx bus system here from 300 to maybe 600 buses, it will take hundreds of millions of dollars to be able to sustain that over time. And so as I have looked across the landscape, there's really only one funding mechanism that can create billions of dollars over time, and it has the right balance of not putting the total burden on the backs of the people who live here. Because over 51% of the revenue that will be derived from this sales tax will come from the visitors, the people who are helping to congest our roadways. And so without that, if we looked at increasing property taxes, increasing our millage rate, then we put that burden squarely on the backs of the property owners here. And I think that there's an imbalance there. And it will not likely produce the billions of dollars that we're talking about. For example, one meal, you see on the quick facts there, one millage rate increase in Orange County will result in about $144 additional million on an annual basis, versus a sales tax would be somewhere around $600 million on an annual basis. If we increase the gas tax, currently we take in about $43 million on an annual basis from the taxes that we pay at the pumps. If we went up to the max that we could charge as a local government, it would only bring in an additional $27 million. So I think that if we truly want to address the issues, it will take something like the sales tax to be able to do so.
Now, I know you've also held a number of pollings as well. What are you finding with those meetings that you've held in terms of the support in passing this, if this was put to a referendum right now?
What we find from the polling, and different organizations that have done polls at this point, from the Greater Orlando Regional Realtors Association to Orlando Economic Partnership, and then from the surveys that we have distributed, what we know is that the people here in this community all agree that we have a traffic congestion problem. They agree about that. The second thing that they agree on is they expect the local leadership, the elected and the private partnerships, to do something about it. The only thing that they may not totally agree on is how to pay for it. There's different ways. Some think that we have the ability within existing budgets to be able to address this, but quite frankly, we do look every day for inefficiencies within our budgets. And we can always, I think government can always save some money, and I challenge my staff to be able to do that. And we may be able to save tens of millions of dollars on an annual basis, but you know what? There are demands for those dollars already to address the social service needs, the housing crisis that we have, the issue with homelessness, and other things that we have a lack of funding for. So with a dedicated funding source, we can plan. We can do much better at planning for not just the here and now, but well into the future.
What was the question again? Sorry, I was so enthralled with Jerry's answer. The question was, how are we going to use it, or how are we going to convince the other mayors? I'm convinced already.
You can trust all that, but in terms of
I can give you some other thoughts.
Sure, that would be great.
We've thought about doing this for a long time, and I was part of the effort in 2004 or 2003, which wasn't really a building 2020, 2004, 2003. But I wasn't there at the beginning. Pretty much what I did was raise money for it, because I had just become mayor, and that plan was already put together, and it was at least cast by the opponents as an I-4-centric plan that did not have the ability to give relief out in West Orange County and East Orange County. So it actually passed along the I-4 corridor in Maitland and Winter Park and the downtown Orlando areas, but got shellacked out in East Orange County 70-30 and out in West Orange County 70-30. So I think it is important to have these listening sessions and understand and make sure that people understand that it's going to benefit the entire county, and how is it going to benefit the entire county. And one of the things that I like to tell people, even if you never ride Lynx or you never ride SunRail, it's beneficial to you, because those means of transportation, those transit means, are getting other people to work that, number one, aren't on your street that you're driving on right next to SunRail, but also it's helping the economy by getting people to work, or getting people to school, or getting people where they need to go. So having different transportation options is critically important if we're going to grow and thrive as a community. And then there's also a social justice aspect of this. The bus is a means of transportation for a lot of people that can't afford a car, right? So if you have inadequate bus service, that individual probably can't get to his job or her job in a timely manner, or at all. So it's incumbent on us as a society to make sure that everybody benefits from living in Orange County, in the city of Orlando. And one of those benefits, or one of the ways to do that, is to make sure that every single resident has the ability to get around our community.
Whether it's public transportation through Lynx, of course, or through SunRail. And you mentioned SunRail, we've mentioned SunRail a couple of times already, and you know, one of the things that...
Can I mention one other thing?
Sure.
The other thing is the transportation of the future is probably a lot different than the transportation of today. We saw that Lake Nona folks got a $20 million grant from the federal government to expand their autonomous vehicles shuttle out there. We're an autonomous vehicle proving ground. We have great electric car infrastructure, but we don't know what the advances are going to be. I've met with people that are wanting to test drive flying cars here in Central Florida. They think it would be the perfect place to do that because it doesn't snow here and it's flat here. So the advances in technology, if we have some funding sources, we might be able to take advantage of more so than some other communities.
We should need to have the infrastructure to communicate with those types of future transportation. Now, one of our current transportation mode is SunRail. You had touched briefly on that, and I know prioritizing funding for transportation specifically for SunRail is a little bit of a challenge moving forward. The locals and the municipalities are set to take over that responsibility sometime in 2021 from the state government. Currently, that rail is run by the Florida Department of Transportation, and in 2021, all the local municipalities who run along that line will be essentially the ones taking on that cost. Now, recent numbers do show, and calculations show, there's a roughly $18 million shortfall under the current system. Can you tell me what is being done when it comes to operations and maintenance costs, and what's essentially the split between all the localities moving forward? Because both of you do sit on that board.
So it costs a lot more to operate than was estimated when we first started operation. The DOT has operated that, and by the way, a lot of you probably don't know that, but it's actually a mitigation project for I-4. The reason we were able to convince the legislature to do SunRail was to have alternative means of transportation while I-4 was under construction. So we're gonna take it over about the same time that I-4 is completed. And it was about $37 million last year was the operation cost, and when you split it, it's based on boardings, so it's not track miles, it's where people get on and off the train. So City of Orlando has a little bigger share that I think is appropriate because so many people get on at Church Street and at the Lynx Central Station, but that's how it would be proportionately split. Now, DOT has been paying for that out of the District 5, that's our local district funds. And if we originally were supposed to pay about $2.5 million, and our share will be something between $10 and $12 million for the operation when it comes about. Now, DOT could continue to fund it after that 18 months, but they would take it out of our District 5 funds. So they would take highway funds, they'd take proportionally out of Orange counties, out of the city of Orlando, out of SunRail, out of Osceola. So we're going to pay for it one way or the other through our funds. We'll be ready to take it over if that's what we decide to do on the appropriate way.
And Mayor Demings, I know you are new to the board, but your essential feedback so far, having been on that board and sat through a couple of the meetings.
Of course, it's a regional partnership because it's a partnership between the counties, currently Volusia, Seminole, Orange, Osceola, and the city of Orlando and the state are the partners to the agreement. But in May of 2021 is due to transition to the local O&M, and that cost, I think, for Orange County, I believe, is projected to be about $16 million, again, based on the proportional rider share. But I will tell you that when you look around the world, when you look around the U.S., whenever you have these commuter rail systems, none of them operate where the fare box is the major portion of the revenue. They all have additional revenues that are supported either by federal funding, or some type of state funding, or local funding from some type of dedicated funding source. And so we're not unique in some of the challenges. And in order to improve ridership, we have to improve, I think, the connectivity and the convenience for people to want to get on it, to get out of the cars. And to me, if we can get human beings out of automobiles and into some alternative modes of transportation, it's environmentally friendly because we are not dealing with fossil fuel types of vehicles, and our air quality and other things benefit as a result of it. Now, let me ask you a question. When we started, they said the rules were that we had
3 to 5 minutes.
3 to 5 minutes, or 2 to 3 minutes, I think. So I'm gonna keep talking. I started looking for the little thing out there, and I'm like, well, I haven't seen it yet, so I'm just gonna keep going on.
And I'm not gonna object.
But if we agree, if you all say dispense with that and just let us talk to you and answer the questions so that we're detailed, I would do that, because that's what I find myself looking out there, and that may not be the appropriate thing to do.
I'm just a visitor too, so
Okay,
I'm
I
just
just want to make
saying.
sure we, if we dispense with that, we'll just, otherwise I'll just keep talking. So I'll stop now.
And SunRail, we never envisioned that it was just going to be the 61 miles. That was always envisioned to be the start. And if we don't get to the airport, then we will not have been successful, and that becomes a game changer. We'll have to get a 7-day-a-week service and more frequent service, so it's very important to do that. But you think about being able to, if you work downtown, instead of driving to the airport, walk over to one of the SunRail stops and go to the airport, then maybe transfer the Virgin and go to Miami, and you do that whole trip in about 3.5 hours, and know that you're going to be there at exactly that time. When you get in a car, you have no idea what time you're going to get anywhere in the state of Florida. But if you get on a train, 99% of the time, you're going to get to your destination at the time you think you are.
Last week I was in London on an economic development trip, and while there we had a meeting with London and Partners, which is the equivalent of our Orlando Economic Partnership. And one of the things that they told us was that the mass transit system, the commuter rail, the tube, was designed to have about 1 million passengers on a daily basis, but 8 million people ride the system. But one of the startling things that they shared with us was that 6% of the population there use public transportation, whereas that's not the case here. And why is that? Because that is the most efficient way for them to move about in a congested area, and the time of travel is more predictable. I live 13 miles from downtown Orlando, where my office is located, and there are days when that trip in the morning can be maybe 18 minutes, and then there are days when it's 50 plus minutes. And I have no way of being able to really predict how much time that would take, much like all of you in the room. But if we do a better job of planning for our transportation network, where we live closer to where we work, and we can address the housing challenges and the total cost of living, I think if we're able to reduce the cost of both housing and transportation for people to be able to move around. So for me, I just look forward to the day when 60% or better of the residents here within this region will be able to use a reliable, dependable, efficient, well-connected, and affordable means of transportation.
One of the key words here is a connected system, and I know one of the big crucial links to getting essentially SunRail to the airport will be Brightline, soon to be Virgin trains, right? So where are we in that process, Mayor Dyer? Because I know you had talked about that will be our critical link to finally get our commuter rail to the airport.
So, Virgin, formerly known as Brightline, formerly known as All Aboard Florida. They're under construction, so they're operational between Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and West Palm. And if you drive along the 528, you'll see that it's under construction in terms of laying the tracks to get to the airport. We're about 2 years out from that, but it should be operational at the airport at the same time the South Terminal is opening, so that's very convenient in terms of that. They are exploring an opportunity to take it from the airport on to Tampa. And there's a couple of different options in terms of the route that hasn't been decided yet, and where there might be additional stops that might have some political consequences to it in the tourism industry. But there is a plan to do that, and if in fact they do that in the next several years, then there'd be an opportunity for us to partner in terms of how we actually get SunRail to the airport. And OUC has a pole line that goes from basically the Meadowwoods area to the power plant and runs right next to the airport. So we have the right-of-way already, and there's the right-of-way that OUC has is wide enough to accommodate an additional 2 train tracks. So we wouldn't have to use the existing pole line in any way. We could track it differently than that. But those tracks could accommodate, if we decide that it's most appropriate to bring SunRail itself to the airport. Virgin could still use the same tracks that SunRail is using, and maybe they build the tracks and we run SunRail over there. Maybe we use Brightline at our Virgin as the link or crossover. That hadn't been decided, but it's going to give us some opportunities to think about that.
Has there any been cost estimate of what that would be, because you're essentially laying and doubling the number of tracks?
There was a DOT cost estimate for the capital. I think it was about $250 million, somewhere in that range. But that's kind of dated at this point, and I wouldn't want to stick by that number because it's probably 5 or 6 or 7 years old at this point.
Now, another thing that was also mentioned was, another big question I always get when I read through SunRail stories is, I would use SunRail if, right? And the following words are, it ran on nights and it ran on weekends. Obviously, it comes at a cost, though. Those trains don't run for free. Can you talk about cost estimates on what it would take to run such a service on the weekends and on nights?
Well, understand again that the state is paying for the total operation right now. And when the legislation was passed, it was passed as commuter rail. And what commuter rail means is you're taking people to work Monday through Friday in work time hours. The hours are expanded a little bit more than that, but we don't have control over increasing the number or the frequency of the trains or the days that the trains run until we are the operators of the train. Or we say to them, we would like you to offer Saturday service, and we're willing to pay for that Saturday service. So the DOT and the state are not willing to simply go above what their obligation is at this point unless we do. So I look for that opportunity. If and when we pass the sales tax, we're going to have a lot of options on what we can do this year.
And it's not cheap to run an extra train either. It's something roughly in the frame of, I think, $200,000, or it's in the thousands.
It is. There's a lot of variables in there, whether it's one more train in the afternoon or whether it's extended past the time that they already operate, whether you have to bring in a whole crew on Saturday or a Sunday that's different than the crews that are operating on a weekday, but it's not inexpensive to do that.
You know, our SunRail system now is, I think they project that every 1 million miles on one of the locomotives, it has to be refurbished. And so the more you increase the use of the train system, you impact with the cost of replacement and all of those other operational costs. And so it is substantial. Without a dedicated funding source, that means if this is turned over to a local O&M, then we have to pull those funds from our general fund or other funds within our respective jurisdiction to be able to pay for it. And then that means that's less money we have to address other things as well. And so, again, it begs the question, how do we pay for it? A penny on the dollar. And in some cases, that penny on the dollar is there are certain expenses that's exempted. Prescription medications, many of your food items in the grocery stores, and some agricultural products and things is exempted from that sales tax. But I still believe that this is, again, something that is very doable for our community. All of the polls that we have seen indicate that it would pass today if it was put on the ballot, anywhere from the high 60s to the 70 percentiles. And so we have to be able to communicate. So what we're trying to do is make certain that as we go out and talk to our community and we tell the story of the potential of what this community can become, people have to see themselves in that story. They have to see how is this going to benefit them. Mayor Dyer talked about, in the last attempt, 2003, 16, 17 years ago. If we wait another 16 or 17 years, some people are going to be saying, what type of leaders did we have back then? How did we find ourselves in this utter gridlock? And that would be, to me, catastrophic for our community. So we're endeavoring to do better with our planning. So I'll stop.
Time. I'm just kidding. When it comes to transportation, I know there's a big push both from the state level and local level as well to accommodate the needs when it comes to bicycles, cyclists, and pedestrians. We shared some of those startling figures when it comes to the number of pedestrian and cyclist deaths. I don't know if anybody's familiar actually with the city of Orlando actually signed a resolution in December 2017 to support something called the Vision Zero Plan. And so this Vision Zero Plan is a mission to eliminate traffic fatalities and serious injuries within the city by 2040. So that's roughly in about 20 years. Mayor Dyer, can you tell us where you are in regards to that plan and having identified the specific areas where you're targeting?
So what we have done to implement it is in each of the 6 districts, commission districts in Orlando, we studied where the frequency of pedestrian accidents and pedestrian deaths and identified within each district in 3 corridors that have the highest incidence. And those corridors range from having 20% of the total accidents to having 60% of the total accidents within those districts. So we are very focused now on those individual corridors and doing safety measures such as crosswalks, big block type crosswalks, because a lot of the pedestrian injuries that occur are where you have long blocks and people choose to cross, not at a crosswalk or a corner or a light, but in the middle. And 436 is probably the biggest issue that the city has. There are other streets that aren't in the city, but 436, anytime you drive down 436, you can see people cutting across, especially at night. There are people wearing dark clothing and darting out into traffic, and sometimes I wonder why there are more fatalities over there than they actually are. So we are making advances, and we're doing it very thoughtfully in terms of not just doing it everywhere, actually looking where the problems are.
Because at least if you conquer those 3 major corridors with the higher percentages of fatalities, you've at least made a significant.
That's right. Can I say one thing about that study though? If you actually look at the metrics that they use, one of the high ones is it's not just pure how many deaths have you had per capita. And oh, by the way, they don't count tourists in terms of the denominator there. So, and then the other aspect is how many people walk to work. So we don't get high marks on how many people walk to work. We're probably a little bit better now that we have residential in the downtown area, but you think of most of the bigger cities, because you're probably thinking, man, New York or Chicago or LA ought to be higher on that list than 7 cities in Florida. Well, they have so many people that walk to work that it skews the numbers. And I'm not making excuses for the numbers that we do have, and we need to change that, but I don't really think the 7 cities in Florida are, in fact, the worst.
Mayor Demings, I know, obviously pedestrian safety, bike safety is a big thing for you. What are you hearing from those transportation meetings, and what is your action plan moving forward?
I do hear that quite a bit of what will we do to improve pedestrian safety. I think that we have a well-connected bicycle path system here, as well as trail system, and it helps to improve that. And certainly the transportation surtax would go to improve infrastructure within the area. There are certainly areas, South Orange Block Trail and other areas where we could do a better job, I think, through how we design the infrastructure around our transportation system. We spend money now on this, but in all honesty, it's inadequate. We spend for Orange County probably $100 million on an annual basis, and we, even at $100 million, we still are significantly behind where we need to be. The needs are probably 3 or 4 times that just to maintain what we currently have. When you do infrastructure improvements, you have to also do an awareness campaign to educate people about what they need to do. And so we have a program where we're working through Metro Plan here called Best Foot Forward program, and it primarily is an educational and an enforcement program. And you all just covered from WFTV a week or so ago an initiative where the local law enforcement officers were out writing tickets related to that. But I think that that's only part of the solution to the challenges: to change pedestrian behavior, change driver behavior, improve the infrastructure, and then we should see better results.
And just to kind of piggyback off of what Mayor Dyer was saying, hopefully with this new passage of the cell phone law, the texting law, maybe our numbers hopefully will skew in our favor moving forward, because we'll at least have a year's worth of data to show that has been in effect, to see whether that's actually helped when it comes to pedestrian and cyclist deaths. So we're reaching the point now. We want to be able to give the chance to ask some of the questions that have been asked by the membership, and these were questions that were emailed to the league and also through Facebook. So one of the questions, and you guys kind of duke it out who's going to answer this one first. One of the questions was, tell us more about the linkages between affordable housing and meeting transportation needs, as well as increased efficiencies. What do most people not understand?
I'll take the first stab at it. It's been estimated that we have 110,000 households within the county who are chronically rent stressed, meaning that they pay more than 30% of their total household income for rent payments. At a time when we are working to try to also improve wages here by diversifying our economy with higher paying jobs, but at the end of the day, wages is part of I think the long-term solution, at least increasing wages to get additional net income to be able to afford housing, afford transportation. When you couple in the cost of transportation for low-wage earners, that number crosses well over 50%, and that means that they have far less money for discretionary things like paying for education, food, and the like. So it is connected, and we can reduce the overall cost of transportation. If we do a better job of planning, where people live closer to where they work, then I think that also impacts it. So we have this Housing for All initiative going on now here in Orange County, where we had a group of volunteer citizens, about 38, 39 of them, who have been working for the last 6 or 7 months to come up with both a short-term plan and a long-term plan to be able to address the housing deficit. In order to afford the average rent payments here for a one-bedroom is $1,200 or so a month to $1,500, you really need to be making over $21 an hour. And so when minimum wage in Florida is at $8.45, we have said, I know Mayor Dyer and I both have said that we will, for our county and city workers, over the next couple of years, increase the minimum pay for our employees to $15 an hour to try to address that. So I do think that the two are closely correlated.
I 100% agree with that. And as I said before, there's a social justice aspect to it. If you're a lower wage earner and your transportation costs are going to be a much higher percentage of what you're bringing home than what most of us in this room are, right? So as a society, we have an obligation, I believe, to provide transportation. And then there's to everyone. And then there's the other aspect of if you're a lower wage earner, you don't get to choose where you live. You get to choose where you can live. And it may or may not be anywhere near your job. So you probably have added transportation costs because you have to travel a long distance. You're probably not going to live in downtown Orlando, even if you have a job in downtown Orlando. You're probably going to have to live somewhere else where the rents are cheaper. So there's that aspect as well, or that connection as well to where you live and how much you earn.
That was actually the first question for our lead voters. Sue is actually in the back. She has a microphone. We're going to give you guys a chance in the audience. I've kind of been asking all the questions here, and I want to be able to open up to the floor. So Sue's right there in the back. I think we have our first question.
I want to remind everyone that we invite league members to pose their questions to the mayors. If you would like to ask a question and you're not a league member, our membership people are right here willing to take your number. So join up.
Good afternoon, Mayor Demings and Mayor Dyer. I'm really very honored to be here to ask you this question. My name is Susan Windmiller. I'm the former president of the League of Women Voters in Miami and newly moved here to Orlando. I spend a lot of time on Colonial and the 408. But what I do know is that in Miami, the citizens do pass taxes for services, and I would certainly be in favor of this. We don't get something for nothing. But my question would be, how will you be sure to ensure these dollars get used for the things that you proposed and we vote for? We have a history in Florida, and I know in Miami, I don't know about Orlando, but in Miami we do the Florida Shuffle. And so I would like to know for all of the voters here, what your plans will be for that. Thank you.
I think one of the goals that we would have to have is some accountability in place where we would perhaps have a citizens advisory group that wouldn't have decision-making authority, because there's some issues with some of the things that Tampa or Hillsborough County recently did with passing their initiative. So we've learned from that. But ultimately, the decision makers will have to be, likely the Board of County Commission here, but through the use of an advisory panel that would help us to ensure that the spending plan remains consistent with what we said. What we're, in terms of the language for the ballot, that language has to be pretty specific. We're working through all of that to, again, make sure that we, whatever we come forward with is what you all have told us are the desires of our electorate here.
It's absolutely critical that the citizens that are going to vote know what they're voting on and what they're voting for, so that there is a clear plan as to how the money is going to be spent, and then they need to have confidence that the money will be spent in the way that it was laid out.
Good afternoon, Mayors. Thanks for being here. I'm Todd Weaver, and my question has to do with busing. And before I retired, I was lucky enough to work in multiple countries in British Isles, Europe, and Japan. And one thing we all had in common is you never saw a school bus, but when you got on the train or the local buses, you'd see uniformed school children going to school. What are your thoughts of possibly combining school busing, which is a significant part of Orange County Schools' budget, with public transportation? Thank you.
Well, I think part of the challenge here is that the school district has already passed a sales tax, and it gets and it can go to capital items, including the school buses. And so back in 1997, the initiative at that time was a combined initiative between the schools and infrastructure, and it failed. But when the schools were kind of separated out, they were able to pass their tax. So what I'm saying to you is I believe in terms of the capital requirements and needs of our school district, they're in pretty good shape now. Now, the other, in terms of funds, unrestricted dollars to pay teachers and what have you, that's a different story. But it doesn't mean that, and at some point that sales tax will sunset unless the electorate decides otherwise. But going forward, I think this conversation today is really about expanding beyond what we currently have.
You know, we did a work session not too long ago with senior staff in the city, and the Volkswagen people came and facilitated it. And one of the things, they gave us the premise of, what if something didn't exist and you hadn't been doing it that same way for the last 200 years? And I think this particular issue is one of those ones, that's the way we've always done it. We have school buses and we have public buses. And if we were starting all over today and starting from scratch, we probably would do it differently. We probably would think, why should we have two separate bus systems when half the time both sets of the buses are half full or a third full or empty? It's just a little hard to put that genie back in the bottle and start all over again at this point, I think.
Good afternoon, and again, thank you for being here. My name is Lorraine Serlak. To have people cross over from their cars to bus to Lynx, I've asked that question to many folks, and the answer I get is you need to develop the bus stops. You know, you need seats, you need covers for the rain and the sun. Is there a plan to move forward with that?
There is a plan to continue to improve bus stops. A lot of them are basically assigned stuck in the grass, so nobody wants to stand in the August heat. But that costs money too, and we pay for that over the course of time, usually with some form of advertising associated with that. We also have the issue of keeping them tidy. A lot of times there's an issue of overflowing garbage cans around stops like that, and then there's also the issue, the public safety issue, making sure that they are well lit and that they don't become a shelter for the homeless to sleep in at night. So I acknowledge your question and say we're working on it, but there are a lot of stops that we improve on.
You know, we'll pivot back to that question and the previous one. Sometimes I think our different governance bodies, they operate somewhat in silos. We do have to look at how do we, as a county at least, look to perhaps consolidate, and even perhaps even as a region. What's the potential benefits of consolidating maybe the SunRail with Lynx and with some of their other entities? And so we'll have to have some of those discussions when we talk about going forward, because if we had the consolidation of some of these authorities, we probably could plan better and make better decisions for the broader good of the entire region.
My name is Lynn Gillum. I'm a league member. I know the restrictions on visit Florida funds. However, is there any possible way of negotiation that could free up some of that money for transportation? It seems to me that there would be some advantages to the tourism industry in that, and they are, I think, obvious.
So there is a provision that you can use it already, but in high impact tourism areas, which we are one, you have to be expending at least 40% of the TDT on tourist advertising. We're trying to get to 30% under the agreement that the county just passed. I think we're at 21 or 22, and over the course of the next 5 years, we'll get to 30. What I have always suggested, I'll just say it again, is forget about the first 6 cents. Let's get authorization for a 7th cent that could be used for different things. And it could be somewhat associated with tourism, but it could be public safety, it could be transportation, it could be some other things. And that way, the first 6 cents would be protected from Scott Maxwell or whoever is going to criticize the use of the, not using the first 6 cents. And you would have a 7th cent. And if you look at who's traveled out of town and stayed in that hotel recently? Somebody? Raise your hand. Okay, you probably looked at your check and the combined sales tax and whatever their TET was, I guarantee you was more than, were 6.5 and 6, so 12.5 cents. If you're in New York, it's over 20, and virtually everywhere I go, it's at least 2 or 3 or 5 cents more. So I think we have the capacity for a 7 cent, but we would have to have a legislature authorize that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dave Finnegan. I have lived here since before Disney. And I like your concept of rolling back the clock and thinking about things if we were to start de novo. And what I'm suggesting is that in New York, if we wanted to go from point A to point B, we go underground. Well, we can't do that in Florida, but we could go above ground with what was developed at Disney, and that's monorails. And there's a new concept for monorail. It's called Transit X. It's solar powered. And I have a suggestion, and that is that we consider where there's a need that's going to erupt to get students from the main campus of UCF to the downtown campus. And we could do that with an overhead transit system that we could test that would run on University Avenue and Cimarron and then probably on Livingston into town. So what about an overhead transit system? Take a look at it.
I think all of those could be options. Another option sometimes you see in other metropolitan areas is bus rapid transit lanes where the bus system has dedicated lanes similar to what you see with the limo system in downtown, where within the Highway 50, State Road 50 corridor, is there an opportunity to create some dedicated bus lanes that will move those students more efficiently in a timely manner. But looking at the options of, we have SunRail, and this, is powered by, locomotive engines, but do these other options, whether it's light rail or some other type of rail, we can look at any of those things, but it all will cost money. There are different prior projects that have been where we have estimated costs, and all of them will need to be updated in order to understand exactly what that cost would be. But again, I think with the dedicated funding source, it gives us a lot of flexibility to do those types of things.
And who knows, maybe in 5 years or 10 years, there might be dedicated lanes for autonomous vehicles that all have to travel at a certain speed of 60 miles an hour, so we eliminate traffic fatalities in that fashion and become more effective and move people around with autonomous vehicles.
And I think that's actually a great ending point, because as we get closer, I want to be conscious of the time here, because we do know you do have to make it over to the GOA board meeting. And we don't know what traffic's going to be like for you to get there. So I want to be very conscious of that. I also want to give a big round of applause to both our mayors today. We're doing a great insight. You are speaking now. Thank you. Again, to both of our mayors, we appreciate you coming. You can catch them on their way out the door and ask them questions. So a couple of announcements and events. For those of you I don't know, my name is Sandy Goodall. I'm your co-president along with Gloria. And my job today is just to wrap us up and get us out the door. I have a 1:30 meeting, so I'll try to do that really quickly.
So a couple things that are coming up. On November 20th, we have Women's Lost History. And I think I told you guys last time that I know I can't ever have an event competing with that because it's very popular, and if you haven't been, you should. Our history committee is amazing and has been working on so many different things, and we'll continue to do that through the next year. So be looking at your newsletters for that. The holiday party is going to be on December 12th. So everybody who is a member is welcome to the holiday party. You can bring your guest. And we do ask that you bring an unopened gift for the Hope Community Center out in Apopka. Our Immigration Committee has asked to have them be our designated charity for this year. And then we have our planning meeting that'll be on January 25th. Everybody is welcome to come to the planning meeting. You don't have to be a committee chair. We're going to do things just a little bit differently. We're going to do kind of what we did last year, except we'll be working directly with the committees in advance to get their top 5 priorities, and we'll choose from their priorities what our priorities are going to be as the League of Orange County. But we will also entertain some new ideas, and so we want to get your fresh ideas, we want to get your input, we want to be able to recruit some more people to join our wonderful committees. So be there January 25th, it's a Saturday. It's a small fee to it, but that's just so we can feed you and have the location. We're also most likely going to have a speakeasy on the first week of December. I'm trying to finalize the location on that. So that will be on healthcare, so just be looking out for that because it'll come up really quickly. And then there is no Hot Topics in December. In January, we're going to have one, and again, like Gloria said, be on the lookout because the location may change. So if we're not here, we don't want you to be here. We want you to be there. And we'll tell you where there is soon. But part of it is we're looking at some additional accommodation for the restrooms and, of course, some more space. And so the other thing I just want to share with you is the next Hot Topics, which will be in January, not December, is going to be on the perils of not counting everybody, which is about the census. And so hopefully, because all of you are activists in your community here, you are interested in making sure that we get the designated dollars that we are supposed to get to be able to do the things that we want to do, like transportation and other important things. And so it's really important that we make sure that everybody is counted. And so it's been going on since 1790. Every 10 years we have the census. The first time that this is going to be done electronically is this year. So there's a lot of opportunity for people to be able to access this electronically and use technology, but there will also be paper census available if there's obstacles in reaching that. And January 8th. So everybody put that on your calendar right now. You can use your cell phones. You can also tag yourself as being here today. I love it when you do that. And the next count will be on April 1st of 2020. So that's when we want to make sure you guys participate in the census, and you get all your friends, all your neighbors, and everybody else that you can think of to participate as well. A couple other announcements. Just wanted to recognize that Linda Chapin is here with us today. And we'll be over at WMFE tomorrow talking to Matthew Petty, so we'll let you know when that is going to come out, and we'll be talking about the history, and again, our great history committee has worked on that. The other thing I wanted to mention really quickly is, for those of you who took the survey, and I know a lot of you did, we had about 128 responses. Thank you for doing that. We are in the process. We have put together all of the results. We're going to put together an executive summary, and then that will be posted on our website and also sent out in our newsletter. But the more important thing is we'll put it into some of the suggestions into our strategic plan and action plan. We had some really great feedback, really great suggestions. Some things we're already doing, and people just don't know that, so we're going to have to find a way to tell you that. But we are really grateful for all of the good responses that we got back, and even the feedback that might have been a little painful, but good to know. So we all have, if we're on the board, we have board 4 ribbons now. So for those of you who don't know what your board members are, Theo needs hers. Just know that we are approachable and that we do want to hear from you, and what you say matters. This is your league. It is bottom up run from the committees. We don't want to interfere with the work of the committees. We just want to help to pave the way so that the committees can do the great work that they're doing. The other thing I just wanted to share is that Val Mobley is in the back somewhere over there. She's doing bond petitions. And then the mayors wanted us to let you know that in the back of the room there are some fast facts on transportation, so take one of those. And there's also a survey, so when they said they want to hear from you, they really do. And then, I don't know how I feel about flying cars. How many of you want flying cars? Okay. Had a conversation with somebody from the city the other day about flying cars and runways. And I was thinking they should be like helicopters if we have them, but if you get in an accident on the ground, you might be one of the 1,600 who perish on our highways, and that's a bad thing. But in the sky, I'm scared. So anyway, but like the mayor said, the transportation of tomorrow is not going to be the transportation of today. So we encourage you to keep participating, keep talking, and keep showing up to hot topics. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.